Hello.
How are y'all?
So good. So good to see you. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and take it away. She's going to talk about her wonderful book and webinar, Dare to Launch.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Christian. That was really insightful. And I will look at that free course because that's definitely something that we tell all our entrepreneurs here in the Guild, which is a community for female entrepreneurs and investors, a global community, to really not spend all the money and hire developers and build the thing that's in your hand, but actually test it and use all the tools that are out there right now, right? So thank you, Christian. I'll look at that course, and I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs in our community that will be able to use that as well.
I appreciate it.
It's an
So
awesome resource.
yeah, so today I thought perhaps it's a little bit of a switch from no code tools to learning from the launch journey as entrepreneurs to then understand how can we make better investments in entrepreneurs. And so I want to understand first who is in the audience here today so I can tweak it a little bit to make sure I'm talking to you and it's good information for you before we jump right in. So can I just get a quick check in the chat to see who is here? So who is an entrepreneur here? If you're an entrepreneur, put entrepreneur in the chat. Aspiring entrepreneur, that's a great one too. And then also I want to know, is there any aspiring angel investors in the group? Just started. Awesome, Hazel. Sydney is an entrepreneur. Excellent, excellent. Founder and investor. Aspiring investor. Excellent. Okay, so it looks like a good mix of entrepreneurs and investors. That's perfect. Okay, keep it going in the chat if you want to tell me who you are. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Entire screen. All right. Share. Here we go. Okay, so I'm starting the slideshow. Can you all see my screen now? Because
No, it didn't start yet.
it didn't start. Yeah. So I'm not so used to Google. I shouldn't say that. It says, can't share your screen. Google Chrome might not be screen recording permission on your computer. Go to system preferences. Oh my
Uh-oh.
God. Let me try to do this very quickly. And
Yeah, it's sometimes Chrome is a little. Are you on a Mac? Are you on an Apple?
I am.
Yeah.
The big battle of the big.
The battle between Apple and Google.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Screen. It does allow the app below to content. Yeah, okay. It does have a little checkbox. Click to lock. Click the lock to make changes. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you have to share tab. I think also helps, if I remember correctly, on Apple.
Okay. Fully, I'm a Zoom girl.
Versus whole screen. I think on Mac you have to share a tab, or like it's terribly difficult.
Okay. All right. So it should actually be able to do it. Let's see.
You started?
If not, we're just doing it without the presentation, or I can send you the link.
You can send it to me.
Exactly. Why don't we do that? Share. Okay. All right. We're doing it on the go here. Okay. Copy link. There we go. Anyone can view.
And I always go, I know when there's an issue, I'm like, you're on an Apple machine. It's okay.
Always.
Do it.
Okay, here you all get the link. You can click on the link and follow along yourself as well. And
Okay.
Marie, you'll
Almost there. Yeah.
can you access it?
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. Okay. Well,
Thank
thank you all. Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it. So first of all, why am I talking about the topic Dare to Launch and the entrepreneurial journey and what we can learn from the entrepreneurial journey for us as aspiring or budding or early stage angel investors? Well, so my name is Anne Cocquyt. I'm the founder and CEO of the Guild. I've built a few businesses in the past and also sold a startup, I acquired a startup, and raised money for tech startups and also consumer product businesses. And in the past 2 years, I have started an academy that's an 8-week program where I thought, we need something that is a little bit earlier than an accelerator, where people typically have already a prototype in the market. But we need something that helps people really take those very first steps in starting their dream business and thinking through the entire journey of prototyping, building it, coding it, but then also monetizing it and thinking about marketing and the business models and who needs to join the team and who would potentially help us get this thing funded. Okay. And so that program is called the Guild Academy. And I put that 8-week program, the Guild Academy, into a book. It's called Dare to Launch, Mini MBA for First-Time Entrepreneurs. And that book launched last week. So it's brand new, fresh off the press, quite literally. So you can get it on Amazon. And last week we launched and we hit bestseller in entrepreneurship, startups, starting a business, in 8 other categories on Amazon. We were top of the list in front of all these male guys that are typically on those lists, like Eric Ries with Lean Startup and Peter Thiel. So I was very excited and proud of all the people that we launched, that we featured in the book. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of that entrepreneurial journey and pull out a few chapters from the book and tell you why it's important as an angel investor to go back to those steps to then understand if it's a good investment. But of course, if we're entrepreneurs, it's just as important to be in the shoes of our potential investors in the future to understand how do they think about the businesses, and then what questions will they ask us so that we are prepared to give them the right information. So we will talk a little bit about the product, how we evaluate that product. Like, is it a good product? Should we invest in that product? Should we build the product? And then how do we judge the founder's potential? That's a huge one, right? It's a big question mark. We can't know for sure, but there's a few flags that help us understand if a founder is a founder we should invest in, and vice versa, if we as the founder need to build more skills or bring more people around us to be convincing to an investor. And then we also talk about red flags. So those are the red flags for the investors to say, maybe not, maybe a different startup. And of course, the red flags as the entrepreneur to say, okay, let's avoid those if we're launching a business. And at the end of the presentation, I want to show you a few of the key metrics that I think we should all have at our fingertips as entrepreneurs and investors to understand what is it that we should ask when we are evaluating the numbers and the dashboard of these companies. Like, what are those numbers that we want to understand? All right, can we go a slide forward? Let's see. Oh, this is just a few things about me. Yeah, I've been around the block, as I said. I'm also a mentor and advisor to a bunch of different entrepreneurship ecosystems, and just recently joined the German Chamber of Commerce, and I teach at various different universities as a guest lecturer, and I'm also a mentor to the Founder Institute and the German Accelerator. All right, let's go one forward. This is the Guild Academy I was telling you about, that this is all built on. It's the 8-week program. If you want to check it out, it's at letsguild.com/academy, and it's a completely virtual program. And next slide, just a quick disclaimer here, since we're talking about startups and investing. I'm not an investment advisor, okay? I am not taking any liability here, and it's your decision if you want to invest in startups or if you want to go out and raise funding. It's a high risk asset class, angel investing, right? And there's absolutely no guarantees that with the frameworks and the steps that I will show you today that you will hit the big unicorn or decacorn or dragon when you start investing in businesses going forward. And at the end of the day, you'll be equipped with a few more frameworks to feel more confident when you make your first angel investment, and hopefully also when you make your first pitch to angel investors. Okay, next slide. Okay, first steps to launch. Like, what are those steps that entrepreneurs typically go through to get to the point where they ask for funding? So let's see what's on that next slide. And that's all the different steps, right, that we go through as entrepreneurs to arrive at that point when we ask for fundraising. Okay, so first comes always the idea, right? I mean, who here has ideas? I thought there's a few aspiring entrepreneurs, right? Okay, so few people, plenty ideas. Excellent. Okay, and with that, Hazel, comes the big question: which idea should I pursue? And if you're somebody like me who has about 36 ideas a day, that is a big question, because you want to launch with an idea that has legs and has the biggest potential to become a successful business, right? So we move into idea validation, and we do that typically as entrepreneurs with an idea decision matrix. It's something you can get access to in the Guild on the website of letsguild.com. It's available there as a free resource. And so you basically put in all your ideas in that decision matrix, and then you evaluate those ideas based on their uniqueness, the resources you have, your own background, but also the potential for that idea to go places. And you give yourself scores, and you put all the different ideas in there, and then at the end it spits out scores and it ranks it automatically, so that then you end up with a list, and there's an idea at the top that hopefully bubbles up to the top, and you make a gut decision. Okay, is in at that point it's validated but also gut decision to say, okay, I want to pursue this idea. That doesn't mean that you're going to build a business and that's it with that idea, but you are going to take that idea and move to the next step, which is user interviews. We call these user discovery interviews because we want to learn about the end user, and we want to learn about their pain points as entrepreneurs. Many people have ideas and also solutions that come with those ideas, right? And it's not uncommon that you're in love with one of these solutions. And it's very typical when you're also come from a coding background that you just want to code a solution and that's it. That I always say, no. Let's not fall in love with the solution. Let's fall in love with the problem. And the only way to be able to do that is to be empathetic with the end user and to talk to them. So we do research. We then also look into other solutions that these users are currently using to solve the problem. We do competition templates and analysis, and look into who else is out there trying to solve this problem and trying to do something similar. And then we build product promise landing pages, right? We put something out there and we see if it works. And that's probably what you just heard in the session before too. It's something that is a minimum viable product that is very, very much just a high level thing to understand what is the user doing with this information. Do we capture their attention? We don't want to build a thing and then 3 years later we realize the users don't click on the button, right? We want to understand, does the user need that? Do they like it, what we put out there? And then we build the MVP, the actual thing that has all the bits and pieces and features in place that we think are needed for us to launch with our company. And then we do solution interviews. So we say, hey, can you look at this? Are you actually clicking on the button? Are you paying for this, etc.? What do you think about these websites? What do you think about the solution, the app, the physical thing? And then we think about how do we get this in front of people, right? The marketing is a huge part of launching a business, especially in today's world where there's so many things launching at the same time. It's such a crowded place in a way. And then we look at the financials. Can we actually make money with this thing? And with the financials come also the resources, right? Like how much budget do we have to get other people into the team and build a team? Do we need advisors? Do we need a co-founder? Do we need investors? And if we do need investors, based on the financials, based on team needs, then we get to the fundraising part, right? And that's where we build the pitch deck and then go out and find those angel investors and perhaps early stage VCs and say, hey, here's a business opportunity based on all these steps that we went through. And here is basically the opportunity. Here's the pitch. Do you want to invest in us? And as angel investors, we need to really understand that entrepreneurs have to have gone through these steps in order to create a pitch deck that isn't just fluff and ideas, but it actually is rooted in some sort of work and merit and reality, right? And it's not just for the angel investors, it's also for the entrepreneur to arrive at that point to then say, you know what, I don't think I'm just building something that's in my head, but I think I'm building something that people really need because I went through all these steps. And so in the next slide, we see what that translates into. If we go to the next slide, Marie, thank you. Then that's basically your pitch that you end up with and that you're presented with as an angel investor. And it's very, very standard, these 12 slides. And of course, there's little variations in these slides typically, but that's what we end up with if we've gone through all these steps. We're going to talk about the purpose of the business, the problem. We're going to give the sources, why we think this is a real problem. That goes back to the user research and the overall competitor research that we've done. We present the solution. We talk about why this is important now, right, as opposed to last year or next year. We talk about the product. What is it that we're building? How big is that market? Like how many people could benefit from it? What is that team that we're putting together? How we're making money with the business model? What's the traction so far? And that goes back to the product promise landing pages. How many people clicked on this? The user behavior interviews, all that stuff, right? Like, is there actually signs that people want this? Whatever that looks like, we want to put on that slide. If that's people signing up on wait lists, that's great. If it's people buying already the product, that's awesome. And if it's people just, saying yes in an online survey, that's okay too. But you want to put the traction in that slide, and then we look at the financials. How is this going to make money, and what is the competition going to look like? And at the end, we see the ask from the entrepreneur. So basically, that's the pitch, and that is the pitch that the angel investors are presented with. And so I want to stop for a second and see if there's any questions about that process or the pitch or anything unclear or any comments. Absolutely happy for you to put them in the chat and we can talk about those. But that's sort of the very first step to understand the entrepreneurial journey, how it all works together, and how we get to the point where then we can now drill into some of these parts to see, what are the questions we should ask as entrepreneurs and investors to understand if this thing has merit and if we should invest in it. Any questions?
So one quick thing, Anna, I wanted to ask is, in terms of go-to market strategy, I had an entrepreneur go, I have no idea what that is, right? And we're helping him, he's one of our clients. And I said to him, there isn't a template for go-to market strategy. It is unique to your business, right? You can't just borrow someone's go-to market strategy. So how do you usually advise people on go-to market strategy, and where do you put it in your 12 slides?
Yeah, so go to market strategy, I would see that So for very early stage startups like this one, where this is the pitch deck that actually did yield 500,000 investment in 2021, based on DocSend, which is a company that lets you send the slides around.
We love everything about DocSend.
Okay, yeah, excellent. Great tool. And they analyze that, and that basically is that pitch deck. So I would say it's not the number one slide in the early stages to look at, because you're so early on that you're really just
You don't really have one.
You don't really have a go-to-market strategy yet.
Mm-hmm.
But what you want to talk about is how do you define traction, right? And the only way to define traction is by having a marketing plan and putting it in front of people in some way or shape, right? And so just because you build a website and there's a little email list there that says, put your email here, doesn't mean that you get traffic to that website. So the question is, how did you get traffic to that website? And I think it's a great question as an angel investor to ask, how do you think about it? Like, tell me how you think about it generally, how in the next year you will create that traffic that will then hopefully translate into sales or members or whatever the metric may be. And we do actually have a template in the Guild Academy that's a go-to-market strategy template. And it just helps you understand, okay, which steps do I need to go in which order in order to get to a point where enough traffic comes to my website and to my app or my solution in order to make the sales that I need to make. And it goes all back to who is the user, right? Like, we're building the solution for a specific user. And then we ask, where does that user hang out? And not just hang out, but also hang out and has an intention to solve the problem. And I think that's an important piece, because if you're just hanging out on Facebook and you're interested in, I don't know, some groups there, and you're sharing recipes about pears or cakes, and then you get an ad there about an educational ed tech platform, it's not going to relate, because you're not there with the intention to create a solution around ed tech. But if that ad happens, or you learn about it on LinkedIn, or because you Google something and then you arrive at a YouTube video that helps you understand something specific, then it makes much more sense to talk about your solution in that channel. And so I say, okay, from a go-to-market strategy perspective, start with the user. Who is it that needs to buy that? And then try to understand which is the channel, where does this person hang out, and where does this person hang out with the intention to solve that problem that they have. And then how can you create content to make that user aware of what you're building the solution here. And number one mistake here from the entrepreneurs that I work with is they put up like, okay, we're going to do Instagram ads, we're going to do influencers, we're going to write blog posts, and we're going to do articles and Forbes and press and buzz ads, and then we're going to buy a billboard on the 101.
Exactly.
They're trying to do all these things because they think that's my go-to-market strategy, and in essence, it's really key to parse it out and to also understand, okay, which step do we take after each other, and what makes sense, and for what do we have a budget. And then there's the two areas in that there are, marketing, paid ads, and the organic type of marketing that is content marketing, that is creating content and putting it out there. It's basically free, but it's not, because you have to pay usually to create the content.
To get all the labor.
Exactly, the labor. Yeah. So if you want to bootstrap, you can do the content strategy. And if you have a bunch of money, you can try the ads. But I always say, if you're doing anything paid, only do it if your traction is showing an ROI, a return on your investment, that is at such a scale that you're not just pouring money into a leaky bucket, right? If you're sending, if I put $1,000 on ads every day, I get a lot of traffic on my website. Absolutely, everybody gets that, right? Question is your conversion
So
rate
you're gonna
on that
convert, yeah.
website high enough that you actually translate that into sales and a lifetime value of that customer that justifies that ad spend. And anybody can start a business by just pouring money into it. I mean, obviously, right? The question and the secret of building good businesses is, is there enough of a pain point that I don't have to pay enough in a space that's not too crowded so that I can get a positive return on my investment and serve that population that hasn't been aware of what I'm creating, and they're paying me the money so that, on the financials, it makes sense and the business model makes sense as well. And then therefore I have a valid ask for the investor at the end here to say, this is a huge business opportunity, right? And if we don't think it's a business opportunity, why would the investors think that and invest in us, right? So
Exactly.
that's how I would answer that question.
Yeah,
And
it's interesting because one of the not I'll be plugging Data 360 later, but one of the things we do is we automate that traction process because so many uh, small businesses and startups spend way too much money guessing and hoping for the best and throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. And one thing that data and AI is good at is matching up audiences to products and services. And so there's a lot of times where our clients don't know that they're where their audiences are or whether they exist or not. And then you can do all these really great things with big data and AI to figure that out quickly
I
and
love it.
inexpensively without having to pay Facebook and Google so much money. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. All right. So we're gonna go to are we on to the next slide? Does anyone have any other questions? We just sort of talked our
Yeah.
way through that break.
Sydney just asked, where's the template? I did plug a template in here. It's not the template, it's a template. And it's also a
Yeah.
template for a business that is a hardware business or a food business. But it gives you a little bit of an overview of what has to all happen for you in order to then launch your business, and in which order, and at the end there, what kind of campaigns you want to run. Hope that's helpful, Sydney. All right, let's move on. Number 2, evaluate the product. Like, how do we know it's a good product as an investor or an entrepreneur? Okay, so let's see what's on the slide. Next one. I love that graphic, by the way. These graphics are from the book too, and I think it's something that we talked about earlier here too, right? Like, how do we build our MVPs? So, so is it totally manual or is it automated? And so, first of all, I think it's really important to tell people what it is that you're building in the pitch, and you wouldn't believe how many pitches aren't specific enough that the investors walk away and they can actually tell other investors what this company is building. so I always say to investors, get a demo, and also make sure you sign up to the website and you sign up for the ad or whatever it is that the entrepreneur is putting out there. And it's mind-boggling to me that very few angel investors actually do that in their due diligence by going through the process. And so be ready, even if not all angel investors do that, be ready that the investors are going to try to use your product, and watch out for those emails. And I've had this as an entrepreneur where investors that I pitched signed up to the website, and then I made sure they had the perfect experience, right? And so you want to check out the pricing there as well. What's on the website? What's the product? Is there different tiers? And then ask the question, how many people use it? And as entrepreneurs, we like to make it a little bit, like pad the numbers. But, there's so many tools like SimilarWeb or other tools that can tell people what is the website traffic to your domain, that I would say don't lie about it. There's no reason to lie about it. Just tell the entrepreneur and the investors how many people are using it, because they're going to check it. And I always say to investors, check it. Does that make sense? Is it real? And then also ask who pays for it, because in many cases we have a freemium business model where people use a product in SaaS and in direct to consumer products, and then only a few of them may be paying customers. And ultimately we want to understand how delighted is the customer. And that's really important, because whenever we're launching a new startup as entrepreneurs, or if we want to invest in that startup as an angel investor, we want to invest in something that is considerably better than what's already out there. And if we go one slide further, I'll show you why that is. It is, one more, please, I'm sorry. It is because on that scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is unsatisfied and 10 is super happy, it is absolutely essential to move a customer at least 3 steps up that ladder in order for them to consider your solution over a competitor solution, or to change from a competitor over to you, or to look at different solutions in the market and then decide for you. And especially when you're trying to get customers from other competitors that are already out there, you want to be sure that the unique value proposition that this startup is offering is uniquely different and 3 steps higher than whatever else is in the market. Why do I say this? I say this because we see a lot of startups that are a slight improvement over what's already out there. And it is very, very hard as an entrepreneur to make those work. And it is very, very tricky as an angel investor to make money on those, because the money that you pour into those startups is usually used for marketing, what we just talked about. The go-to-market strategy gets so much harder if you don't have a strong, unique value proposition. And so how can you find out if you have a product that's 3 steps better? I mean, obviously there's one where you just sort of look at it and you're like, yeah, more or less, it's quite a bit better. Or you can also do interviews with your customers, and you can show the delight of these customers to the angel investor. And as the angel investor, you can go on the website, you read the reviews, and you really dig in deep and try to understand what people love about this product that you built versus another product that may be already out there. So that's a key element of understanding if the product any good. And I also say to people, try to understand the customer journey. Like, when does the customer learn about that product, and when do they start using it, and what does that look like? Do they have to sign up? Do they have to click a certain button? Do they need to fill out an assessment? Do they need to do a demo? Is there a sales process? Like, what does it look like? I think it's really key to educating your investors, and it's key for the investors to understand, so the investors can become advocates for your solution, because they might know somebody who needs it, but if they don't understand how it works, it's going to be so much more difficult for them to be a good advocate and basically salesperson for you. So don't miss out on that opportunity to really explain how it works, and let people go through it, even offer demos during your due diligence, and maybe little videos that explain it very quickly, so that everybody is on the same page and people understand what you're creating. Okay. Right. So marketing plan. So this is a little bit back to what we just talked about with the go-to-market plan. And we do want to understand some of these metrics, even at the early stages. And so what I ask angel investors to ask entrepreneurs is, let them walk you through the pirate funnel. This is something that Dave McClure from 500 Startups has coined. It's called pirate funnel, because if you look at the first letters, it's called R. Very clever. And so basically you want to ask the entrepreneur, how do you create awareness? How do you acquire the folks that then became aware of your solution? How do you activate them? and move them into the revenue piece of your business. Like activation could be that they join your thing that's for free, but then you want to get them to the revenue piece. How many of those that you activated became revenue users? And then how many do you retain? Because as we said, you can pour a lot of money into getting people into your system, but quite a few might fall out of the system because they use it, they sign up for one thing, and then boom, they're gone, right? Like me yesterday, I wanted to watch the Oscars. Pretty good show, I think, and made all the news today. And so I'm like, oh damn, I don't have Dish or whatever TV, so I signed up for the 7-day trial, whatever program. I even forgot about what it's called. And then immediately after the Oscars, I churned, right? So they didn't retain me because they didn't show me enough other stuff where I would have then been like, oh, look, I can also watch blah, blah, blah here. So let me stay on and keep that subscription, right? So they moved me from awareness through acquisition activation almost actually to the revenue piece with the 7-day trial. Well, actually, it didn't move me to the revenue, but I immediately churned. So I fell out of the process here, and I didn't refer anybody to it, right? Because for me, it was just to watch the Oscars. And so it's a good way to think about your own go-to-market and strategy, and look at the numbers too, and ask yourself, hey, I'm losing a lot of people between activation and revenue. Maybe that paid package that I put together is not good enough. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't put that customer 3 steps ahead. And if you get them to the revenue part and they all churn after 1 month, they're like, thank you, I got all the value here. Thank you very much. I go again. Or it's a marketplace where you connect caregivers to each other, whatever you're doing. And then after 1 month, people got the value, they got the contacts, and they move on, right? Then in that scenario too, you basically, you're not successful. You're not building a successful business because you can't retain those. And then the big question is always like, how many of those customers refer others? Because that is the big golden nugget, right? Like if you get that right, that's amazing. Now you have a business that actually markets itself. Now you don't even have to pour money into it anymore. You don't need investment, because if you get 5 people and they each refer 5 other people, you have a business that grows and builds itself. This is basically what happened with Facebook at the beginning, where you had to join and invite 10 friends at the very beginning. And so it spiraled into a big network very quickly. Okay, so that's kind of the question around the marketing plan for yourself and as an angel investor. And if you go 1 slide further, we talk about founder potential and see, how do we make sure that that founder is actually the right horse to bet on? It's a really tricky question, and a lot of VCs actually think about this a lot, way more than about the product, way more than about the market. They really think about the team, and is this the team and the founder that's going to win the race? And so if we look at the next slide, we see a few criteria here that are being reviewed. So one of them is credentials, and that is looking backwards, right? Like, what has this person done in the past? And this is where we as founders should pull out as much as we can from a credibility point of view to put that in the team slide, and to convince the investors that we are the ones that are going to build that. Now, if you are a founder that is not really in an area that you have a lot of expertise in, you have to build that team around you that has that expertise so that you can cover that gap. You might be awesome at something else, at execution. You might be awesome at coding. You might be terrible at healthcare, and maybe you're creating a telehealth solution, right? So in that case, that's a gap, and that There's nothing you can put in your slides or in your story that will fill that gap unless you get other people in, like advisors or a co-founder that can smooth out that gap. And that goes to the team, right? Like, how does the founder think about the team? How many people has the founder been able to bring on the team? Are there any advisors on that team? Are those people that work full time on the solution? Are they all part time? And what is their vision for the company? And is that vision the same across the team? That's actually a really big one. And I think it's important for founders to understand that, but it's also really important as angel investors and VCs to figure out, is this team working towards the same vision? And whenever, and there's a ton of data about this, whenever the team has different kinds of visions about what that company should be in the future, there's going to be conflict, and then it means it breaks apart. And in many cases, it creates a lot of mess, a lot of confusion, and also quite a bit of friction that takes away from building a great product, that takes away from going to market, talking to users, and figuring out the right business model. And all the energy of the team then goes into figuring out the team, hiring people, firing them, back and forth, right? So, I mean, it's kind of an obvious one in a way, but it's very interesting to see, like Janneke Niesen from Capital T in the Netherlands, for instance. She is a VC that really absolutely makes sure and does assessments around the share vision of the team when she invests in those companies. So be prepared for that as an entrepreneur, that this may come your way, that some investors will want to know about this and also will not just want to meet you as the founder, but also want to meet your team. And then the hiring plan is a big one. I always tell angel investors, hey, go on the website and check what are the open positions for that company. And those open positions will tell you how the founders and the team is thinking about building that company. Now, if there is like virtual assistant, marketing, social media marketing expert, and one other role up there, it's like, yeah, I'm not sure if, it depends on the business, obviously. But if this is a SaaS business, it may not be the right folks, right? Maybe you need a salesperson. Maybe you need a business development executive for that company to really hit that next milestone. And a lot of founders get bogged down in these little roles that they're bad at, but then because they're bad at it, they want to hire that role, but that might not be the most critical role. So think about that hiring plan, put it on your ask slide, and then as angel investors, take a critical look at that and say, is that the right plan? And do we agree that this is where our money should go? Should our money go to a social media manager, or should our money go to a seasoned SaaS business development expert in that technical industry or niche business of what that business is in? Okay, cool. Any questions around this? No. Flying through it. Last one, or second to last one, the red flags. Just a few red flags from my experience. If you look at the next slide, the defensiveness of founders is, to me, a huge red flag. Whenever you're asking about other competitors or you're making comments about the product and the attitude is defensiveness, for me, it's a big red flag. I think the right attitude towards it is, oh, tell me more. Can you repeat that name of that competitor I wasn't aware of? Could you maybe even make an introduction to somebody that I can meet to learn more about it? Like that is the right mindset of a founder from my perspective. Some founders tell me, we don't have any competitors, we're the only ones out there. And that is never true. It just means they didn't do the research in detail and in depth. And then one of the big ones on the ask slide is, well, we need all this money so we can hire a developer team and build that solution. Now that goes back to what we heard from Christian, right? So make sure that the idea is validated enough, that the founders have gone through all these steps, and the resources that are out there in the no-code environment as well, to get to a point where they actually know what the requirements should be for the product that they then can build. But in many, many cases, that money just goes into some idea, some requirement specifications that are never rooted in reality. So a very tricky one there if that's what the founders think the money needs to do. If there's no advisors, that just means to me that the founders haven't done the homework. And if I don't see any sources on the slides, for me, that's a red flag as well. I want to see where that research comes from. And then sometimes, you kind of look behind the scenes of founders, startups, you look into the documents of the data room, and sometimes it's a little chaotic, and that points to perhaps how they run the overall company. So again, this would be a red flag for me. And then last but not least, the last point here is the success metrics. And so what is it that we should ask for as angel investors to say, hey, give me that one number so that I can track if you guys are successful or not. And if we go to the next slide, there's a little illustration there that shows you, you as the founder, you're the captain of the spaceship. And so basically, you have a lot of different things you can measure all day long, right? And if you're a data nerd and you're into BI dashboards, then you might overmeasure. Or if you are one of those founders who really love the vanity metrics, like how many people like us on Instagram, then you might end up with a North Star metric that is not the metric that just signifies the success of your company. So as entrepreneurs and as angel investors, I would always say be very specific in which metric you want to have presented to you, and you want to present to your investors. So if you send quarterly updates to your investors after a round, I would always lead with those metrics and be like, okay, our month over month growth is X. And then, you go from there and you explain what happened in the business for you to get there. And if it's not at the point you want it to be, then you can, get into the conversation. Why wasn't it like that? And what are we doing to get it back to where we need it to be so that the business is going to be a success and hopefully exits at some point. So there's a lot of different metrics here, anything from bounce rates even to total users to total active users. And in SaaS businesses, it's sometimes even, how many steps does a customer take before they buy. Revenue is a great one, but there's a lot of metrics you can measure that are not really telling you if the business is doing well. So think about that for a second as the entrepreneur, and maybe not for a second, but for a longer time as the entrepreneur, but for a quick time as an angel investor, and say, is that number that the entrepreneur is reporting to me the number that I think they should be reporting to me? And that's kind of like goes back to the traction question. Is that real traction, or is this just a vanity metric? Or, is the conversion rate actually the one that I want to see with each one of these presentations? And let's dig through that a little bit. Let's make sure we also look at those financial statements from the founders in order to determine if we do want to invest and think that this is a great business opportunity to join. And that should be it, right? That should be the outcome of your pitch. This should be the outcome of any interaction with angel investors, that they're excited about what you're building, they want to learn more, and they can't wait to be part of that exciting business opportunity and be part of it by joining you in a role as an investor and an advisor, perhaps on your advisory board, or even as a board member, but also with the money. And so that was just a few parts from the book that I pulled out to help you understand, what is it that the entrepreneur goes through and should go through, and then what is it that we can ask those entrepreneurs as angel investors and make better decisions with more confidence. So if you want to connect with me, you want to support the book launch, please go on LinkedIn, connect with me, and also happy for you to send me emails if you like. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or unmute. And yeah, thank you so much.
So awesome. Thank you, Anne. Really appreciate it. Any questions for Anne before we let her go for the evening? It was fantastic.
Awesome.
One of the things, one of the questions last question I had is, if someone wants to join your.
Oh, I'm not hearing you. Is that on my side or is that your connection? Are you guys still hearing me? Hello, hello?
Now I had to switch devices.
There you go. Thank you, Naomi.
If someone wants to join your academy, how do they do that?
Oh yeah, thank you. So academy, I'll put a link in the chat. If you are interested in joining, and that's not, of course, not a link, but go to let'sskill.com/academy. And our next cohort runs in May, end of May, for 8 weeks. And it always ends up with a showcase to angel investors and early stage VCs as well. So you do have a real opportunity to pitch to investors. Then you can go to that link and sign up. And we do have scholarships as well. So if you're in a minority and you don't have financial means to join the academy, we do offer a specific scholarship for that as well. And the academy also comes with the book, so you get a copy of the book as well. Thanks for asking that, Marie, and thank you so much for putting this together and for running this community. And yeah, super excited that we had a chance to work together on this.
Yeah, so wonderful. We've been Facebook group pals for a very long time. I think it's been like almost 5 years. It's been crazy. We've both grown our programs at the same time, so it's been really fun to see everyone's programs get bigger, and Karen with iFund Women, her program get bigger, and everyone's doing great things now. We're officially VCs now. It's crazy. So yeah. At the same time, I think about 2 weeks too for us. So it's been fun. So we have a whole pipeline to help you guys get where you're going, and lots of great partners like Anne and Christian. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll be sure to put this online and get you some more folks too. Okay, last chance. You say last call for alcohol. That's not popular anymore. So it's the last chance. No one drinks anymore.
It's just water.
I know. I'm drinking beet juice. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
And then